With it being quarterback draft season, you're hearing the jargon fly. And whether somebody likes stats and production or experience or character traits or learned skills, everyone compiles their list of questions that they want answered. And we can't argue that they're putting in the work. But what we can question is, are they asking the right questions? 10 years ago, we took a punch to the face when it came to evaluating quarterbacks, and we were shown that what we look at is garbage. Some took that as an opportunity and a reason to answer the bell. Others stayed frozen in time. And across the league, you see that quarterback evaluation is all over the place right now. And that's the reason why. Some are seeing that the game, it's changing. And others are still stuck on their West Coast offense template. Well, 10 years ago, we started revising how we graded quarterbacks. We tore up the template because we knew it didn't work. We tried to reverse engineer quarterbacks that were succeeding that didn't seem to fit the old template. We started looking for what the quarterback position truly distills down to. And we came away with two factors. They're very simple. It's about how much space you can attack and how efficiently you can attack that space. That's all the quarterback position is. The alteration of time and space. How do you buy time? How do you create space? And therein lies the rub. How do you evaluate that? How do you evaluate how a quarterback can alter the time and space that he has on the field? Well, there's 8 traits that we've come away with that answer the big questions in quarterback evaluation. And why do I feel confident that these are the big questions? Because an offensive coordinator can't save them. You have them or you don't. It is rare to ever see a quarterback develop these beyond their college years. They are efficiency boosters. And if you don't have them, they drag down your efficiency. They force your offense's hand. And that, there's nothing you can do about that. Now, we started this series off with why your team drafted a bust. We added on intangibles don't matter. And this is the third in the series, where we talk about the 8 traits that do matter. We are going to be going through every one of these traits in its own video, explaining specifically how we grade it and what you can look for so you can grade it yourself. If at the very least, go down below, hit subscribe, ring the bell, just to get a different set of eyes on this. You might take something away from it. You might think it's rubbish. Whatever it is, get a different set of eyes on it. Grow your game. Now, to avoid being a typecast quarterback guru, you have to look across the spectrum of different traits that can make up a quarterback's success. There are people who like toolsy quarterbacks. That's fine. There are people who like the mental traits. That's fine as well. Some people like the learned traits. That, I guess, it speeds up your adjustment phase a little bit. But you have to look over the whole spectrum, because there's time that you can gain and there's time you can waste in multiple different areas. So we start off on the physical side of the quarterback spectrum, where you grade arm talent and you grade athleticism. Now, these are specifically athletic traits. Don't confuse them with any mental part of the game, just specifically the athletic part of it. And arm talent, you're going to grade it 4 ways, and we're going to talk about that in the video. But the reason we did this is, well, you can thank Deshaun Watson for that, because that's the player who specifically made us iron this out in the 4 different quadrants. Because there's zip, which is the short and intermediate throws. There is weight, which is the deep throws, on platform and off platform. You're going to grade this 4 ways. And the great thing that came about from this is that it explains away the radar gun fallacy. It also explains the Drew Brees' arm is shot, Drew Brees' arm isn't shot debate. And it explains a lot of what's going on with Minshew Magic and the downsides of Minshew Magic. On the athleticism scale, it's very simple. You have your statues, you have your standards, you have your tight end mobile, and then you have your hypermobile quarterbacks. There is an expected amount of gain from each level. And we're seeing a lot of the quarterbacks fall into the tight end mobile realm these days. Even Mac Jones is standard mobile. Everybody calls him a statue, but he's not a statue. And this is a very important grading tool that I see people mess up all the time for some reason. Lamar Jackson has been in the league for 3 years, and I've heard enough bad comps to Lamar Jackson to make my head spin for the next 20. You need to know what you're looking for on the field to know where they fall into this spectrum. In the second area, we talk about the functional traits. Now, the functional traits are pocket mobility, independent of athleticism, pocket mobility, and mechanics. Now, with pocket mobility, this is a footwork and awareness trait that allows quarterbacks to slide in the pocket, find the right escape lanes, buy that extra time, and find the throwing lane to add efficiency to the play. On the mechanics side of it, I want to stress right off the bat that there are people who are very detail-oriented on their mechanics, and I believe they are doing it wrong, and there are a number of people who agree with that. A number of years ago, when I was learning about mechanics, I crossed the path of one person who said it the best I've ever heard it, and that's there's an ideal set of how you want a quarterback to throw the ball, and then you look at all the quarterbacks in the NFL, and they're all slightly different. And it all works. And if you're a quarterback's coach, of course you want to, round off the rough edges. But from an evaluation standpoint, you should be reverse engineering mechanics. If the ball's going where it's supposed to go, if the control is there, the mechanics are fine. If the ball is going in some place where the quarterback doesn't expect it to go or something's a glitch, then you go back into the mechanics and see where it's going wrong. Identify the patterns and see where there are delays and efficiencies in those mechanics. But the most important thing about mechanics is that you must grade them two ways. You have to grade ideal mechanics, which are on-platform mechanics, and adaptable mechanics, off-platform mechanics. When we graded Rosen, we saw the off-platform issues. We saw how everything declined significantly off-platform, and it was one of the 3 areas that we pointed to that said he's going to bust. Now, when we started this off, I said there were 8 traits, and that sounds pretty simple, right? Does it still sound simple? No. So we're moving on to the mental traits. There are 4 mental traits, and I want to stress this from the beginning that mental traits do not equate to intelligence. Intelligence is great to have in a quarterback. It helps you with all the playbook, film study, tendency identifying, and pre-snap ideas. But there are ways that I can cheat all of that as an offensive coordinator. And since 2019, which we called the year of the simple, it continues to just burn like a wildfire through the NFL. The modern offenses are quick open routes, clear outs so that you get yak, play action, motion before the snap, a lot of spread, a lot of things that allow a quarterback to see where the defense is and just go get them. And the stunning part of modern football is that intelligence and progressions are needed less than ever. All 4 mental traits that we grade happen post-snap. They all happen post-snap because that is the time, the 2 to 4 seconds, where as an offensive coordinator, I can no longer help the quarterback. It is on him. And despite being called mental traits, they aren't thinking. They're instinct and their spatial awareness. The first trait on that group is tempo. And tempo is processing speed, awareness, and your internal clock, your poise. This can be graded. Even though people will use these terms interchangeably, this can actually be graded. Because when we look into these traits, we look into games where the quarterback is overmatched and plays that have gone awry. When the deck is stacked against you, do you elevate the play or do you drop the play down in efficiency? That's tempo. The next one is ball placement. And ball placement, a lot of people talk about accuracy. Accuracy is great. But accuracy plus a level of spatial awareness is ball placement. And this is very important because this is another trait that Rosen absolutely failed in. He could be accurate. He could throw the ball where it should go every single time. But where it needed to go is a different thing than where it should go. When we look into the ball placement aspect of accuracy, how is your feel for the back shoulder throw? Are you leading wide receivers away from a hit? Are you stopping wide receivers in a hole in the coverage? Are you putting them in position to catch and run? Are you giving them yak? That is what ball placement is, and that is an instinctual trait. There were people who were very low on Lamar Jackson's accuracy, and I understand that. But the ball placement instinct that he showed was the saving grace of his throwing game. The next mental trait is anticipation. And this is simply when the wide receiver is in where the wide receiver is in their break and where the quarterback is releasing that ball. At what point in time can the quarterback gauge where this play completes? It stands to reason. The sooner you can get the ball out, the better. So if you can throw a ball to a wide receiver as he's entering his break, or a step before he gains his leverage, and put it where it needs to be, it steals you time. And the last of the mental traits is vision. How do you see through a defense? How do you see the movement in a defense, and how does that allow you to trigger your throw earlier? There are quarterbacks that have severe, limited, narrow vision. There's one in this class who no one's talking about it that has a severe issue with vision. Well, actually, there's two, but one is only partially a vision issue. If you cannot see how a defense is moving and twisting and cutting under routes, you're going to get fooled on a high level. This is going to lead to interceptions. This is going to have you putting the ball into tight windows that aren't there. This is going to cause a lot of mistakes, and this is going to get the ball taken away. And we've seen in his early career that this is something that plagues Baker Mayfield until he got Stefanski, who spread out the offense and got him the open, clean windows on the zone and the boot game. There were a lot of throws where he would make a throw to a wide receiver, not seeing a cornerback come back under it, not seeing a linebacker slide underneath it. And that led to his higher interception rate. As he got more comfortable in an offense that saved him from it, then you saw that drop. But this is something that can't be plugged into every offense. So vision is very important. And as I alluded to there, taking these 8 traits allows you to see how quarterbacks will fit into different offensive systems. It allows you to pair quarterbacks to offensive coordinators. And this is a very important thing because you can see a quarterback who's on a level 3 quarterback tier, which is the run-of-the-mill quarterbacks from the 12 to 24 region in the league. And if they're placed in the proper system, you may see results on the level 2. And if they're placed in the perfect system, they might be all the way up to MVP consideration. Josh Allen. The same thing goes for Carson Wentz. And then as that system goes away from what he can do, you see it drag you down. So a 3-level quarterback can drop down to 3.4 or 3.5 or to a backup level capabilities because you're putting him in a system that chews him up like a wood chipper. So those are the 8. And we will be outlining specifically how you grade each and every one of them in its own individual video. Again, go down below, hit subscribe, ring the bell to make sure that you see the playlist because we're going to be putting that all together by the draft time so that you can pick up these little tricks of the trade. But if you think it stops there, you're wrong. Because we've seen the Ryan Tannehill effect happen with the move from a Gase over to the Arthur Smith system. We've seen Trubisky go from having his days with Nagy to his switch over to laser. You can see with these traits what offenses they fit into, and that's going to help you for fantasy football because the next time somebody comes out of nowhere or the next time a quarterback resurrects from the dead because they switch teams, we're going to be on that. And that's where you steal value, and that's where you go streaking when it comes to gambling. Stick with us through these, guys. I understand that it's very different, but there's a reason behind everything that we talk about in these traits. I love you. We need you. Stay strong, and I'll see you on the other side.